It's 10 a.m. in Hong Kong and China. I'm Emily Tan, coming to you live from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, where the second Saudi Tadawul Capital Markets Forum is underway. Let's get to your headlines. Markets are getting a lift after a U.S. trade court struck down President Trump's universal and reciprocal tariffs. The Trump administration has appealed this ruling. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang slams the Trump administration's chip controls to China, saying its revenue in the latest quarter could have been even higher if not for them. The U.S. will start aggressively revoking Chinese student visas. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying they will also step up scrutiny of future visa applications from China and Hong Kong. And the first Saudi Sukuk ETF for Asian investors launching in Hong Kong today. We'll discuss the growing trade and commercial ties between the Gulf and Hong Kong with Bonnie Chan. There's lots to talk about with her, including those reports of Shein looking to potentially list here instead of London, and we'll have all of that just ahead. A very good morning and welcome to the China Connection. We are live on the road at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. I'm Emily Tan. A quick check on the markets across Asia this morning, and we are seeing positivity, outperformance for North Asia, particularly in the Japanese and the Korean markets. Here in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index traded higher by about 100 points, 23,371. That is up 0.5%. We have the Hang Seng Tech Index better for almost 1%. We got Shanghai and Shenzhen also better on the session. U.S. futures surging this morning after a U.S. trade court blocked President Trump's so-called liberation tariffs from going into effect. The Court of International Trade says the president's tariff policies goes against federal law and he exceeded his authority with use of emergency powers. This essentially would put Trump's tariffs on hold, from the universal 10% duties to the steep duties he's threatened on the EU and China. The Trump administration has appealed this ruling. Here in Hong Kong, we're keeping track of a new Sukuk ETF, which is a way to access the Islamic bond market and assets compliant with Islamic law or Sharia law. The BOCHK Saudi Arabia government Sukuk ETFs, launched by Premia, traded in both Hong Kong dollars and US dollars. This as HKEX and the Saudi Tadawul jointly hosting the Capital Markets Forum right here in Hong Kong. Another major story in Hong Kong is Shein reportedly eyeing a listing in the city within the year. The fast fashion giant received approval from British regulators for its London IPO earlier this year, but sources saying that it has struggled to get clearance from Chinese regulators, the CSRC, and it's now looking at a Hong Kong debut instead, joining the raft of companies who have listed here since the start of the year. I spoke to Financial Secretary Paul Chan just a short time ago here at the CMF about what's driving the positive sentiment in the Hong Kong market. Let's take a listen.
In terms of opportunities, we see companies listed in the U.S., say for example, returning. And also because of the very vibrant technological breakthrough and the very successful startups on the mainland, DeepSeek moment, you all remember. A lot of mainland tech companies are seeking opportunities to go overseas, to raise funds. So more and more business will be going global, and our storyline to them is that, hey, use Hong Kong as the platform to raise the funds to support your overseas development, and also use our professional services, our excellent platform to support their move.
Bonnie Chan is a CEO of Hong Kong Exchange and joins me now here live. Of course, we have the CMF going on behind us. It's very exciting to be here. Bonnie, good morning.
Good morning, Emily. It's full house again at our Connect Hall.
Yes, it's very exciting. Lots of activity here down at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. I want to start our discussion this morning with the news of the day, and this is with the U.S. Federal Trade Court ruling that President Trump has overstepped his authority when it comes to his Liberation Day tariffs. How do companies, how do countries now navigate in such uncertain territory?
Well, Well, I can't really speak on behalf of everybody, but I think by now we are very much used to waking up and seeing all sorts of news every day. And sometimes, you think things are going one direction, they'll take a U-turn. I think the important thing really for us is that, we need to make sure that our market is resilient and we are able to provide a very robust and transparent, stable market for investors and corporates to continue to conduct their activity, be it fundraising, be it trading and investing. And so, I think we do need to continue to stay vigilant and make sure that, we provide investors that very good access. And so far this year, I think, we have been delivering rather good results. You see that our markets has remained very liquid, very orderly, and our IPO market has been performing quite well.
On April the 7th, we saw huge markets reaction globally. Hong Kong plunged 13% on the back of Liberation Day by Trump's announcements. The Hong Kong market, though, now outperforming year-to-date, up 16%. It's outperforming many Asian markets around the region. How does the market look now?
Okay, I think that's exactly the point I was trying to make. Even though we experienced on the so-called Liberation Day quite a big volatility, but the market remained very orderly, and that's the resilience that was clearly demonstrated. I think since then, what we've seen are a few trends. I think, first of all, there is now a very strong renewed interest for global investors to look at Chinese assets, and we have since then welcomed a few very big IPOs, including obviously you were reporting on that, the CATL IPO, which is the biggest in the world this year. Our volume has also stayed very strong, and so year to date, our ADT is at about 240-50 billion Hong Kong dollars, and so I think all in all, we're quite pleased with the direction of travel. Obviously, a lot is happening around the world, and we need to stay focused. But suffice to say, we do believe both on the primary market side and the secondary market side, we're seeing a lot of pretty good momentum.
Would you characterize this as a herd mentality, and how long do you think it'll last?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, if you look at our pipeline, first of all, IPO pipeline, which a lot of my friends and the market is very focused on, we have a very solid pipeline of over 150 applicants, and that's growing. Deal after deal, we see very strong participation, not only from local or regional investors, but really investors from the US, from Europe, from the Middle East. And I am quite confident that we are going to continue to see this pipeline building, and therefore this is not sort of a fad. This is really underpinned by very strong fundamentals. The other thing which I think I'm noticing is that given how much volatility there is in the market, investors around the world, they are beginning to also sort of reflect upon what they are observing, and maybe they need to reassess how they are allocating their capital. And I think with that happening, and with that also coinciding with the fact that we are able to bring so many exciting investment opportunities in front of investors, that probably will attract more capital to look our way. And therefore, I do think that this could be a sustainable trend.
I'm going to ask you about contemporary Amprex, and there are only a handful of H shares that trade to a premium to their A share counterparts. Contemporary Amprex is one, BYD, China Merchants. Why do you think CATL is traded at a premium to its A shares?
Well, there are a lot of factors in play, but I would say fundamentally it's a very attractive investment opportunity. As we saw, they traded very strongly on day one. It's the biggest IPO in the world this year. And they were able to exercise the green shoe on the second day of trading. I would say that, the ability of these domestic Asia-listed companies to pursue another listing in Hong Kong, by in itself, it's very attractive to both the companies themselves as well as investors around the world who want to partake in that investment story. On this A to H phenomena or trend, we have already received over 20 applications which are being processed at the moment, and there are another 20 plus companies, A-share listed companies, which have already announced their plans to list, to pursue another listing in Hong Kong. So I think with that becoming a more prominent phenomena, I would say that probably will help further draw the attention of international investors, and with more trading activity, hopefully, we see that spread between the A-share and the H-share price narrowing.
Another name that we're watching is Shein, whether it's a New York listing or a London listing. This was seen as part of the company's efforts to gain legitimacy as a global company rather than a Chinese company, also accessing to a wider pool of Western investors. What do you say to those that believe if it was a Hong Kong listing, it would go against this strategy?
Okay, well, I wouldn't sort of comment in the context of any particular company, but more generally, I do believe that a listing in Hong Kong is a badge of honor. It's recognition. We do have very high requirements, in terms of making sure that companies joining our exchange are good quality ones. And therefore, I think over and over we are able to demonstrate to the world that we bring quality companies which are highly sought after by international investors to list on our markets. And therefore, I really don't consider that, as sort of going against, the wish of a company to become global. Quite the contrary, we are a global and an international exchange. I mean, today, as you can see from the Connect call, we're bringing together investors and companies from around the world, and especially in the Middle Eastern region. And therefore, I do think that it is going to actually amplify the fact that companies are international by a listing in Hong Kong.
You talked about formidable cluster of companies that are tapping Hong Kong's market, but we're not seeing international companies come to Hong Kong. What more needs to be done to attract these types of companies?
Well, we've done quite a bit. Now, first of all, in terms of the listing framework, our rules, as you can see, we have been constantly adding exchanges around the world to the list of recognized stock exchanges so that we can facilitate companies listed on those exchanges to come to pursue a secondary listing. On top of that, I travel quite a lot to meet with companies and investors around the world. I think it's beginning to bear fruit. You might have noticed that actually last week we listed a company, which is headquartered in Singapore, which is a company in the healthcare sector. There is also in the pipeline companies from Thailand, from Singapore. So I think, we're beginning to see that momentum building in the region, and hopefully we're going to expand that beyond just Asia and more to the rest of the world.
Yes, that was Morexis that listed in Hong Kong last week. There was a big gong ceremony with the Sukuk ETF listing here. What is the demand for Islamic finance in Hong Kong?
Yeah. I think, this is the second CMF hosted in Hong Kong. I would say compared to last year, there is certainly more interest and in fact more familiarity. As I mentioned in many occasions, for investors to get to know and grow their familiarity with a market requires time. And I'm therefore extremely pleased to see yet another Saudi-facing ETF getting listed on our markets, and I am quite confident that as we continue to build not only the ETF but a universe of different products, so that we will give more opportunities to investors on both markets to really participate and partake in these opportunities, we will see even more activity between the two markets.
As you continue to build your bridges and get closer in terms of the participation, what does the next phase look like? You've already recognized 3 markets in the Middle East. What more can we see?
Okay, well, so just now, I was watching your chat with the financial secretary. I think that connectivity is going to build, and it's not just confined to the financial market, right? I think we mentioned also that, we want to have bridges built, in terms of tourism, industries, etc. So we are doing our part on the finance side. I think it's a matter of time that you will see not only products being listed, we are working earnestly in talking to companies, and we're talking about both ways, right? Either Saudi companies coming or Middle Eastern companies coming to our market and vice versa. I will obviously keep you posted as soon as we hear good news.
Bonnie, thank you very much for joining us today here. We've been speaking with Bonnie Chan, CEO of Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing, as of course we are here at the Capital Markets Forum, the 2nd edition. Now here we're also keeping an eye out on chip plays this morning. TSMC and UMC in Taiwan moving higher, and we're seeing big pops in Japanese equipment stocks in Tokyo this morning.